Hey, what's up? Nick Frosty here, and in this video we are going to create this awesome jQuery slider. You can see it right here in action. We have 4 images that are being displayed as a sidebar sort of thing, and then we have our larger image that just cycles through. We can click on each sidebar image to go to that specific image, and we can click here on whatever we set our slide title to actually link off to whatever website you want. So pretty sweet. We're going to be using jQuery. You will need to download jQuery from jQuery.com, or if you download the source package, then yeah, jQuery will be in there. So let's go ahead and get started. I have already blanked out this form in this entire page, so if we just refresh, there is nothing. Alright, so to start off, do note that I have jQuery 1.4.4 inside of my directory here. So the first thing we have to do is we have to make it so our web page can access our jQuery library. So we want to put in script tags inside of our head tag, and we want to set a type of text/JavaScript, and we need to set a source, so src equals, and / our jQuery file .js. So a / or period / in HTML and in most programming languages means the current directory that you're working in, and we have our jQuery file and with the jQuery or the JavaScript extension. So we're also going to create our own JavaScript file, and we're going to use an external style sheet in order to style everything and make it look pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this line because we're going to need another JavaScript file, and the file we'll call slider.js. Now we need to link, so we're using the link tag. We need to link off to our style sheet, so we need to set a rel of style sheet and a type of text/CSS, and we have to set an href to the location of our style sheet, and I'm just going to name it slider.css. Alright, so inside of our body tags for our web page, we're just going to create a div. And essentially in HTML, a div is a container that you can put whatever you want inside of it. You can put other divs, you can put spans, any sort of HTML element you want, or just standard text. Now, how we're going to do this is we're going to set each of our items is going to have a class, and some are going to have IDs. The reason we're going to set some with IDs and others with classes and some with both is because when working with JavaScript and jQuery, it's somewhat difficult to select items by class, but it is very simple to select an item by an ID value. So our main class will be main tac slider, and in case you're confused by me saying tac, I refer to tac as a minus sign or a dash, whatever you want to call it. I just happen to call it a tac symbol, just by force of habit, I suppose. So inside of our main slider, we're going to have 2 sections. We're going to have our sidebar, and we're going to have the main content area, which is going to show our large image, and then a smaller bar that will have a title that will essentially be the link that will link off to whatever website you want. So we're going to create those divs, and we're going to set a style, or sorry, not a style, a class equal to slider tac large tac image for our first one, and our second one will be slider sidebar. Yeah, let's go with that. So inside of our sidebar, we're going to have 4 images being displayed using the image tag, just like that. So we have our start and end image tag. Now in an image tag, you generally have a couple of attributes, and if you're not familiar with this, an attribute is essentially an item. Like for instance, in a div, we have a class attribute that has the value of main slider. So our source attribute, or src, is the location of our image. Now, for the testing purposes of this, since I do have an example of this exact jQuery slider on my website, nickfrosty.com, you can go ahead and take a look at that, and I do have images on there that I have created, so I'm going to use those images for this tutorial. So, right now, here is the link to a default image that I have created, and you are free to use this image if you would like. You simply have to download it off my website, and this is just a simple default image that I created in case that your image that you want to use cannot be found or whatever. You can go ahead and use that freely. So another attribute that is generally used with an image tag is an alt attribute. Now, an alt attribute essentially declares the text that will be shown in case the image is not found. So maybe you, in case the image is not found. So say you have a link or an image of a puppy, and for whatever reason your web server cannot find that image. So maybe you want to have the text instead of an image, maybe say cute puppy or whatever you want. That's just one example. For some reason, that's the example that I gave. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Alright, so the alt for this, right now I'm not going to set it to anything. Later on we will set it to our actual title, and we will be doing that dynamically with PHP. So, another attribute that is used with image tags is a width attribute. Pretty self-explanatory. We can set a width of our image. In this case, I'm going to be using 110 pixels. And if you're going to be following this tutorial exactly, I definitely recommend keeping all of the width and height attributes the exact same that I set them as, because they are set up specifically for use with the image sizes that I have for my slider. You will have to change a bunch of things if you change one of these. So I recommend just sticking with these ones. We also want to set a height attribute on our image to about 68 pixels. And the reason is because that will give us a nice rectangular shape that you saw at the very beginning of the video. So we have our first image created. We can go ahead and refresh the jQuery page, and you see we just have this nice small image here. Just says no image selected. Pretty simple. Alright. So our web page is going to have 4 of these images, each of which is going to have a class that is different. The first one is going to have an image1 class, the second one is going to have image2, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to set all those. So each of these now has this image class, and obviously we haven't done this, created this yet. So that essentially will take care of the generic sidebar. Later on, towards the end of the video, we will make that dynamic with PHP. So, inside of our large image area, we're going to have 2 divs. And these 2 divs will, one be the main image, so the large image itself, and the other one will be that gray bar or box that will be at the bottom that will actually hold the title and the link to your web page that you have in your slider. So we're going to set a class on this, and we're also going to set an ID. Now, the class we will set to, let's go with large tac image. That works. So we're going to set our ID to slider tac large, or no, slider tac image tac 1. Now, the reason we're setting this to 1 is because this will be our first slide in our entire slider. So each slide will have a unique number, 1 through 4, pretty self-explanatory, and inside of each of these we will have different information and our different links. So the second div that we're going to have inside of our large image area will be our info area. So we'll give it a class of info area, and we will give it an ID of slider tac info tac 1, and again 1 is declaring what slide we're on. Alright, so inside of our large image area, this is where we are going to have our image tag right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this in here, and I'm going to get rid of the class, and we're going to leave the image here. We're going to leave the alt the same. and we're going to change the width and the height of the image. So the width we're going to change to 520 pixels, and the height to 230 pixels. So that will give us our spacing for enough room for our information bar that can go beneath the image. Now our information bar, or information area if you will, it's just going to have an anchor tag, which if you're not familiar with the anchor tag, essentially that just allows you to create links within HTML. And for now, this is just going to go to my website, so www.nickfrosty.com, and the text is going to say Nick Frosty's website. Sure, that works. Alright, so if we go ahead and refresh the page now, you can see we have our image here, and we just have some text and our 4 images here. Now there's nothing special about this at all. There's no animation, there's no slider action, and who wants that? We want slider action. So before we get to the JavaScript and jQuery that makes this entire slider function, is we have to do some pretty extensive CSS, but it's not too difficult. So we're going to go ahead and create our CSS file. So we named it slider.css. So we first need to style the main slider class. So to style a class in CSS, we signify a class with a period or a dot, and to signify an ID, so if you want to style an item with an ID attribute, you would use the pound or hash symbol, just like that. But since our main slider is a class, we got to put a class period for a class. So we're going to set a background color of, let's go with CCC. Now, to declare a color in CSS or HTML, you use this format, is a pound or hash symbol and then the color code. CCC is a sort of a darkish gray color, and I really like it. So I'm also going to set a 1 pixel border that's solid and that will be black. So black in HTML is 000. What else? Let's also set a width to this of about 650, so 650 pixels, and we'll also set a height of, let's go with about 300 pixels. Alright, so the last thing we have to set is an overflow value of hidden. So any sort of information that will be displayed in here will now be hidden if it goes outside of that space. So, well, we got a problem here. I renamed my CSS file improperly. It should just be slider. And if we refresh, you see we now have this box here, and we have this extra content down here. Our images that should be over here, we have those hidden and cut off. So to fix that, we need to open back up our slider.css, and we have to style the slider tac large tac image class. And don't forget that that is inside of the main tac slider class. So we have a double duplication, or not a double duplication, we have a double declaration of classes that are being styled. So we want to style the slider large image class that is inside of the main slider. And I may have worded that improperly, but I hope you get the idea. So what we also need to style is the sidebar class, so the slider sidebar. So our large image area has to have a float value of left, and the sidebar has to have a float value of right. So if just by setting those and refresh, we now have our content to their respective areas, and it looks a little bit nicer, but everything is still jam-packed together. So we're going to fix that. So we're going to add some more styles to our large image class. There we go. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set a width of 520 pixels. We are also going to set an overflow value of hidden, and we're going to set a margin tac top, so a margin in the top area of about 5 pixels. We're also going to set it on the left and the bottom. So if we refresh, this should kick over our image, give us a little bit of spacing. Everything's starting to come along now. So our sidebar, we need to add a width style of 110 pixels, and you guessed it, an overflow of hidden, and a margin tack right of 5 pixels. So you can see that didn't really do very much because we put it on the right side here, but we will get to that in a moment. Don't forget to check out my website, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube.